You're listening to The Hour of the Time. I'm Pooh.
And I'm William Cooper. What happened?
Huh?
What happened? You started and then you stopped.
Well, I thought we weren't on yet.
Oh, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I have a surprise for all of you. You're going to hear during the first hour of tonight's broadcast the very first airing of The Hour of the Time on May the 4th, 1992. The very first. Oh, wait till you hear what I sounded like then. You're not going to believe it. So buckle your seatbelts and get ready for a ride. This is all about the Constitution, and you don't want to miss a word of it.
Welcome to the Hour of the Time. I am your host, William Cooper. Good evening. In the coming months and hopefully years, this show is going to bring you information that is not available to the public, ladies and gentlemen, in any form. We will be a force for education of those who really have trouble understanding what's happening in the world, in our country, in our states, in our cities, and yes, even in our families. But we have to start somewhere, and there are two things that are absolutely required in the coming weeks and months for you to understand what's happening on this show. Because I'm not going to take one single second of precious time to recount my history or how I got to be here or anything else. I'm going to start right off the bat with an education for those who for many years have been living literally in Fantasyland. The real world is much different than you have ever perceived it. For years, I've been traveling around this country lecturing to the American people with a great faith in my heart that once they understand the real truth of the world, they will wake up, take back their power, and save this great nation. And that really brings us to tonight's subject. Since this is the first show ever of the hour of the time, and the time is our time, this hour, is the hour in which we will decide the future of ourselves, our family, our city, our state, and our nation. The two texts are a book entitled Behold a Pale Horse, written by me, William Cooper. It's 500 pages of the most well-documented, suppressed information that's ever been printed in the history of the world. This book is $24. Postage and handling is included. And you may write to the following address with your check or money order to purchase this book. Send it to Stan Barrington, Barrington, Post Office Box 889, Camp Verde, Arizona. Verde is Spanish for green, spelled V as in Victor, E-R-D-E. The zip code is 86322. That's Stan Barrington, Post Office Box 889, Camp Verde, Arizona, 86322. You can call Stan also at area code 602-567-6109. That's 602-567-6109. The other text for this program is the Constitution of the United States of America and the Articles and Amendment thereof. You are going to get that document tonight on this program. Because without a knowledge of the Constitution of the United States of America, you cannot listen to this show and understand what is being said. You can't understand where we're coming from or what it is that we're trying to do. In fact, without an understanding, a knowledge of the Constitution of the United States of America, you really don't know anything about your own country. For you see, ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America is and resides within only one place, and that place is the Constitution of the United States of America and the Articles and Amendment thereof. There is no other United States of America. You can't find it by picking up a handful of dirt or crossing a border or talking to people or standing within a geographical area. All of the rights, the freedoms, everything that we hold dear about this country, and I mean everything, literally, resides within that document. The United States of America will cease to exist and vanish from the face of the earth if that document is destroyed, if it is changed, if it is burned, if any of those things happen. This country, likewise, will be changed, burnt, destroyed, shredded. Most Americans have either forgotten that fact or they were never taught that fact to begin with. The Constitution of the United States of America and the Articles and Amendment thereof are the United States of America. There is no other United States of America. That is why things are happening today that people don't understand. Everywhere I go, throughout this great nation, people approach me and say, "Bill, I know something is wrong. I can feel it in my gut." "I don't know what it is, Bill. Please tell me what is wrong." And the first question I always ask them is, do you own a copy of the Constitution of the United States of America? And I have to tell you, folks, 9 out of 10 replies are in the negative. In other words, no, they don't own one. On many instances, when I am attacked because of my political views, I always ask the question of the person who's doing the attacking, because they don't understand who they are or what I'm all about. Because I only have one political viewpoint, and that is constitutional. I love this country, and this country is the Constitution. And I have sworn to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I did that when I went into the service of my country, in both the United States Air Force and the Strategic Air Command, and in the United States Navy, where I served with the Office of Naval Intelligence. I always look at these people who don't seem to understand. They think that if you love the Constitution, that you're a right-wing extremist. In reality, folks, if you love the Constitution, you are an American, and you're the only American. People who don't understand that don't even know what country they live in. And all you have to do to expose them is ask, "Tell me, what does the 3rd article of the Constitution of the United States of America say?" I've never had an answer yet. You can ask them any article. And in a recent poll of all those asked, if they knew what the Bill of Rights was, only 33% of all those polled could answer correctly. That is the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that our country is in serious trouble today. That is the reason that everyone feels in their gut that something is wrong, but they don't know what it is. Because if you don't know what your rights are, if you don't know what your country is, if you don't understand the Constitution and know it well, backwards and forwards, inside and out, and it's a short document, folks. It's a very short document. It's easy to learn. But if you don't know those things, then it is easy for your freedoms to be taken away, for your country to be changed in a direction that makes no sense to you, for you to lose your protection under the law, for you to end up in court thinking that you're in a constitutional court, but ultimately finding out that you are in an admiralty court and you have no constitutional rights in that court. All of these things are happening in America today. All of them and more. Fact. The 4th article and amendment to the Constitution, one of our primary rights under the Bill of Rights, under the first 10 amendments, for all intents and purposes is gone. And you all have watched it happen right under your noses on programs like Cops, Top Cops, Detective Cops, 911 Cops, Lady Cops, SWAT Cops, Cop Cops, Grandma Cops. And you haven't said a thing about it. On the contrary, I have watched entire living rooms, couches full of people, families, applaud these wrongs in the name of getting the crime and drugs off the streets. You see, those of us who have served in the intelligence community know where the drugs come from and what they're all about. We also know what it was designed to do. The war on drugs is not a war on drugs, ladies and gentlemen. It's a war upon the Constitution of the United States of America. The 4th article and amendment gives us the freedom, the protection the right to safety and to be secure in our person and in our papers and in our belongings. And it guarantees that no cop from any precinct or any ward or any police station can just come in off the street, bash down our door, rip open our mattresses, search our person and our closets, tear up our floorboards, just because he doesn't like us. And the Constitution specifically states, as you will hear, that there must be a warrant issued. It must be signed by a judge. And it must be issued upon probable cause. It must name the exact location to be searched and the exact articles to be seized. The Constitution also gives us protection against the seizure of our private property, because it states that no property shall be seized without just compensation. However, every Friday and Saturday night, you all sit there in your chairs and you watch all of these things being violated. Police breaking down doors without identifying themselves. They rush in, they rip the house apart, they search everything. It's against the Constitution, the basic rights, freedoms guaranteed to us in this country. The reason why you allow it to happen and you cheer them on is because they're doing it to minorities, blacks, what some people would call poor white trash, minorities, Haitians, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics. And because you're basically racist at heart, you say, get those suckers, throw them in jail. What you don't understand, though, is when you take away the rights of any single one of us, any one citizen in this entire country, you have taken the rights of all. And by your passive acceptance, after you have been shown what is happening, you establish the law again in the common law that you no longer have those rights. That is a legal fact, ladies and gentlemen. If you do not stand up and claim your rights the moment you see them violated, it can be construed in law that you no longer are entitled to those rights. That's the reason they're showing you on television constantly, so that they will have a legal case to say that the American people accepted it. And by their passive acceptance, they have, in effect, changed the law and have no rights. Wake up. Please wake up. There are those who want to take it all away from us. And they want to establish what they call a new world order. A one-world totalitarian socialist government wherein each of us will be controlled on a 24-hour day basis and will, in fact, be chained to a computer in a system of cashless debt which will be more cruel than any prison that has ever been built. But that's a subject for another program. Tonight, as I promised you earlier, I'm going to give you something. Something many of you have never had. Something that you felt was missing in your life, and that is a reason to live. A reason to keep going no matter what, a reason to fight, a reason to do anything that you need to do. Hope, the understanding of what you are, what your roots are, and what this country is all about. I give you, ladies and gentlemen, now, your country. This is your country. Record it. Listen to it. Play it over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, the living Constitution of the United States of America.
to carry on the War of Independence, and hence to secure their unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The 13 American colonies banded together in 1776 as the United States of America. When the war was finally won, the new nation was confronted by many grave responsibilities. And it was soon realized that a strong federal government was needed to represent the mutual interests of the states and protect the rights of individual citizens. In 1787, delegates from the states met in Philadelphia to draw up a constitution adequate to the needs of the Union. The 55 delegates included such men as Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington. It took them 4 full months to complete their task. Yet, in retrospect, that was a remarkably short time. For what these dedicated, far-sighted men achieved was nothing less than a permanent framework of government, a unique pattern for a democratic way of life. From that long-ago day to this, the Constitution of the United States has been the living heart and spirit of our nation. Abridged and amended from time to time according to the will of the people, its broad concepts ever subject to interpretation in the light of changing conditions. This great document is today, as it was in 1787, mankind's most inspired design for the self-government of a free people. The supreme law of the land, the living Constitution of the United States.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
The first 3 articles of the Constitution provide for the 3 branches of the federal government: legislative, executive, and judicial. Article 1.
All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every 2nd year by the people of the several states.
No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen.
Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers.
When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies.
The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment.
The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote.
No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years, and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen.
The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States.
The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. And no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present.
Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, quest, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law.
The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations. except as to the places of choosing senators. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members.
Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member.
Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal.
Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting.
The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services, to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the state. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place.
All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives.
But the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills.
Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States.
If he approve, he shall sign it. But if not, he shall return it with his objections to that house in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections on their journal and proceed to reconsider it.
If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that house shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other house, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that house, it shall become a law.
But in all such cases, the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively.
If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, it shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law.
Article 1 of the Constitution concludes with 3 significant sections. The first of these sets forth the powers of Congress and is the basis of most federal legislation.
The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises,
to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States.
To borrow money on the credit of the United States. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes.
To establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States.
To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standards of weights and measures. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States.
To establish post offices and post roads. Promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries.
To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations.
To declare war. To raise and support armies. But no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy. To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces.
To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress.
To exercise exclusive legislation over such districts as may become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts and other needful buildings.
And to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof.
Having granted these powers to the federal government, the Constitution next imposes limitations to protect certain fundamental rights of the people.
The privilege of the right of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless, when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed.
No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census.
No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state.
No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another.
No money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law. And a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time.
No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States. And no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state.
From the powers of the states. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility.
No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws.
No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay.
Article 2 provides for the executive branch of the government. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term. Each state shall appoint a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the President from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President. The President shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation.
I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors.
Article 3 provides for the judicial branch of the government.
The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may, from time to time, ordain and establish.
The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office.
The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority.
To all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party,
to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states,
between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects.
In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction.
In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make.
The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed.
Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort.
No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court.
The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason.
Following the provisions for the three branches of the federal government, the Constitution next establishes the mutual obligations and responsibilities of the states to each other, and the relationship that exists between the states and the federal government, guaranteeing certain rights to the citizens of each state.
Article 4. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state.
And the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved, and the effect thereof.
the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states.
A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crimes, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up, to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime.
New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislature of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress.
The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States.
The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence.
Article 5. The Congress, whenever two-thirds of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of two-thirds of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of three-fourths of the several states or by conventions in three-fourths thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Article 6.
This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land.
And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
The senators and representatives before mentioned,
and the members of the several state legislatures,
and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states,
shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution.
But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
It was a truly inspired design of government that the Convention of 1787 created. And yet, as many of the delegates were aware, it had one basic weakness. The Constitution was not explicit enough about the rights of individuals. Time and again in the state conventions to which the Constitution was submitted for approval, the need for additional safeguards was urged. In the case of several states, ratification of the Constitution resulted only after assurances were given that these safeguards would be provided by early amendment. This was the first order of business of the first session of the First Congress of the United States. In September of 1789, the Congress submitted to the states a group of proposed amendments which would protect and preserve certain fundamental rights of the people against encroachment by the newly created federal government. These proposed additions to the Constitution were known as the Bill of Rights, a name which has lasted through the ages and become a living symbol of democratic free government throughout the world. As ratified by the states, these are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
Amendment 1.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof,
or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press,
or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances.
Amendment 2.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Amendment 3.
No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner. nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Amendment 4.
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated.
And no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Amendment 5.
No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war and public danger.
Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb.
Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself.
Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Amendment 6.
In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which districts shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation.
To be confronted with the witnesses against him. To have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
Amendment 7.
In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law.
Amendment 8.
Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Amendment 9.
The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
Amendment 10.
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
Seven years after the Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution, another amendment was ratified. This limited the powers of the federal courts in dealing with matters primarily of concern to the states. Amendment 11.
The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state, or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state.
In 1804, the procedure for election of the President and Vice President was clarified by amendment. Amendment 12.
The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for President and Vice President, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as President, and of all persons voted for as Vice President, and of the number of votes for each. Which lists they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate.
The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for President shall be the President. The person having the greatest number of votes as Vice President shall be the Vice President.
But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of President shall be eligible to that of Vice President of the United States.
Then, for 80 years and one, the Constitution proved reasonably adequate to the needs of the expanding nation. This was a period of great national growth, marked by the admission of 19 new states to the Union, and more than a six-fold increase in the nation's population, from 5 to 32 million people. It was also the period when the Union was rent and torn by the war between the states. In the aftermath of that war came the 3 Reconstruction Amendments. The first of these is Amendment 13.
Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Amendment 14.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article.
Amendment 15.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
43 years passed, until in 1913 the power of the federal government to tax incomes was assured by Amendment 16.
The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes, from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration.
The same year, a significant and fundamental change was made in the method of selecting senators. They had previously been chosen by the state legislatures. Amendment 17 provides for their direct election by the people.
The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote.
When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election, as the legislature may direct.
The problems and pressures of World War I changed the thinking of people everywhere. In the United States, 2 controversial amendments to the Constitution were proposed, fervently argued, and ultimately ratified. Amendment 18, which prohibited the manufacture and sale of intoxicating liquors, was subsequently repealed. Amendment 19.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
The Congress shall have power by appropriate legislation to enforce the provisions of this article.
In 1933, the need for 2 more amendments was recognized, and they were enacted by the people. Amendment 20 modernizes certain of the Constitution's original provisions to bring them in line with the realities and requirements of the 20th century, and thus provide for a more efficient functioning of the federal government.
The terms of the President and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of Senators and Representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January.
The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year.
And such meetings shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day.
If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the President-elect shall have died, the Vice President-elect shall become President. If a President shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the President-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the Vice President-elect shall act as President until the President shall have qualified.
And the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a President-elect nor a Vice President-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as President, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be elected.
And such person shall act accordingly until a President or a Vice President shall have qualified.
Then, for the first and only time in history, an amendment to the Constitution was nullified by subsequent amendment. The 18th Amendment and the so-called Volstead Act, which had established national prohibition, were repealed by Amendment 21, But at the same time, the people extended to the states complete authority to restrict at their option the sale of alcoholic beverages. Amendment 21.
The transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited.
In 1951, following Franklin Roosevelt's precedent-shattering four-time election as president, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was passed.
No person shall be elected to the office of the President more than twice, and no person who has held the office of President or acted as President for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected President shall be elected to the office of the President more than once.
On April 3rd, 1961, the 23rd, and as of now, the last amendment to the Constitution went into effect, which, for the first time, authorized residents of the District of Columbia to participate in the election of the President and the Vice President of the United States.
The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as the Congress may direct a number of electors of President and Vice President equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress, to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered, for the purposes of the election of President and Vice President, to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of amendment.
The living Constitution of the United States, supreme law of our land.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being my very special guests on this occasion of the very first broadcast of the Hour of the Time. I am your host, William Cooper. We will broadcast this show every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night from 9 until 10 p.m. Central Time by satellite on SpaceNet 2, Channel 7, 7.5 audio. If you would like to inquire about available videotapes, my book, and other information, call Stan Barrington at 602-567-6109 or write to Stan at Post Office Box 889, Camp Verde, Arizona 86322. Good night, and God bless you all.
You're listening to the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network. We now return you to the hour of the time. Welcome back to the hour of the time. Well, how did you like that experience, ladies and gentlemen? I bet for some of you it was enlightening. Well, let's go to the phones for the rest of this hour. 520-333-4578 is the number. I sounded a lot different then, didn't I? And the beginning was the end, which shortly afterward became the beginning. If you understand what all that means. Good evening. You're on the air. Hello.
This is Doug in Idaho.
Yes.
I went on vacation. I came back from vacation, and you weren't on the short wave where you're normally at. And I was wondering where you're located now.
Oh, you're not even listening to us.
Oh, I'm not.
We're on satellite, and we're broadcasting right now. We begin at 7 Pacific, 8 Mountain, 9 Central, and 10 Eastern. And we broadcast for 2 hours every night on satellite. It's Galaxy 6, Channel 14, 7.56 audio, and low-power shortwave, low-power FM broadcast stations across the country. We are building a new network, and we're making great strides.
Well, that's great. You know, I've missed you. I'm glad I know where you're at. I don't have a satellite.
Well, you can get one.
Okay.
Where do you live?
Idaho.
Idaho. Is that, Central Time Zone? Eastern?
Pacific. North Idaho.
Oh, okay. You're right next to Oregon, then. Oregon and Washington.
No, we're up near the Canadian border. 30 miles from Canada.
You're not next to the state of Washington?
Yeah, we're next to Washington, yes.
And Oregon?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. For a minute, I thought I was talking to somebody on the moon there.
No.
Okay. You can get a complete satellite system from us where you're at for, I believe, it's $485 plus $60 shipping. Are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm writing this down.
Okay.
What is the address?
Just make your money order to Harvest and send it to Harvest, P.O. Box 1970.
Okay.
Eager, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona,
okay.
85925.
Okay.
And that's the least expensive satellite system you can get anywhere.
And what size dish is that?
It's a 7-foot Orbitron dish, top of the line.
That is a real good buy.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you for calling. What a surprise that was for him and for me. He didn't even know he was calling to be on the air. 520-333-4578. How many of you, by listening to what you heard during that first broadcast of the Hour of the Time, could tell that we're not living under a constitutional Republican government? In fact, many of those articles in the Constitution are completely ignored. How many of you were sitting there listening and saying, well, we don't do that? Jeepers, I didn't know that. Isn't it amazing? And aren't you surprised by how short it really is? I mean, not absolutely everything was covered, but, in about, 35 minutes, maybe less than that. In fact, I'll bet it was less than 30 minutes. I'll bet it was about, 28 minutes. The entire Constitution for the United States of America and most of the amendments thereof was covered. Is that surprising? It really is a short document, folks. It's only 7 articles, and the first 10 amendments, of course, are 10, plus the preambles of both documents, and then the amendments that follow. The number is 520-333-4578. And if the telephone doesn't ring in 2 minutes, I'm going to hang it up and go to bed, folks, because I absolutely refuse to do this kind of thing. This is a broadcast where for many years we did 1 hour of imparting information and rarely ever took calls. You have thousands of letters from people all over the place saying, why don't you take calls? Why don't you let us talk on the air? And then when I do it, guess what? Everybody gets a taste of chicken plucker disease. Good evening. You're on the air.
Bill, Steve from around Kalamazoo. Last Friday's show, you were lamenting the fact that you couldn't buy those micro transmitters already assembled?
No, that's not true. We can buy them assembled, but the ones so far that we have seen that are assembled are not the quality that we want to recommend. Now, if somebody's got one that's better, they want to submit one for testing, and it passes the test, and it doesn't drift on frequency, and it sounds good, and is easy to set up and use, then we'll recommend that one.
Okay, are you informed who is the FCC's type acceptance rules, which sort of limit the field as far as what would be...
I don't care about that. Our people are not broadcasting where the FCC has any authority.
Yes, if you take it from that standpoint, you're absolutely...
I have to take it from that standpoint.
Okay.
I believe in constitutional Republican government, not tyranny.
And so, as do we, but as far as how the situation currently lays, there's a bunch of legal cul-de-sacs for them to keep you under the current system from manufacturing products like that or other medical devices.
Well, if you're a chicken plucker and you're afraid to stand up and claim your rights and do what needs to be done, then I guess so.
Absolutely, sir. Very good. Carry on, Bill.
Thank you.
Good evening.
520-333-4578. It's just amazing to me how many people are just cowed all the time. Just absolutely cowed by these people. I know people who are approached by federal agents who are investigating other people. They have no warrants, no subpoenas, no authority, no right. And they ask people to furnish documents on the other person, and they just do it. They just do it without being compelled lawfully or in any other way. It's just amazing to me how really cowardly people have become in this country. Good evening. You're on the air.
Is this Bill?
Yes.
Bill, this is Jim from Florida.
Hello, Jim.
Just wanted to tell you I missed you on shortwave. Every now and then I can get on my mother-in-law's satellite and pick you up on satellite. But it's not consistent now. But I really have missed you on the shortwave.
Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't missed shortwave at all.
Certainly is a tremendous difference in the reception on satellite.
Well, I started on satellite and I'm back on satellite. I got a fax from a real wacko guy. He's a convicted felon. His name is Scarborough, and he says he claims in his not fax but email. He claims in his email that he's the one responsible for having me removed from radio. I wasn't removed from radio. I removed myself because I wouldn't deal with dishonest liars and manipulators, and I am still on radio.
Well, those of us who have been regular listeners know that. I wasn't able to listen to you live every night, but I had recorded every night, and I'd listen to it every day the next day so that I could keep up with you. But I just wanted to let you know that, we have appreciated the information that you have gotten out, and just want to wish you all the best in this new endeavor. And if I can work things out, I'd like to become a part of this.
Great. Yeah, the more stations that we can mount across the country, the more people will have listening to the truth that have never heard it before. And I'm talking about people that don't even know what shortwave is.
Yeah.
Will be able to tune to an FM station in their town or city or state and listen to the Hour of the Time and all the other wonderful broadcasting that we're going to bring. We're going to be going to 24 hours pretty soon, and it's going to be fantastic. We have some marvelous programming coming up.
I wanted to ask you one question, if I could, about the program last night I was able to pick up. The videos that you broadcast over the satellite there now, on the audio.
I think you only heard one, the first one.
Right. Now, those were shown on A&E last year, weren't they?
Yes. I think they've been shown on different networks and different television broadcasting, whatever they are, over the years. They're not new.
I had seen those. I didn't remember that's what it was though until I.
Yeah, Henry Lincoln was one of the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Okay, well, Bill, one thing I do enjoy about this is it certainly is easy to get into, on the telephone. I've tried many times before and you couldn't get into you to talk to you.
Well, that's because we had 10 million listeners then. I don't know how many listeners we have now, but most of the listeners that are listening now, especially on satellite, have been here from the very beginning. And so I'm sure they feel they know it all. And they probably heard me just destroy some of the most ignorant and asinine and stupid callers, so they may be a little hesitant to call. I call it the chicken plucker syndrome.
Well, I just wanted to let you know I'm enjoying all my reruns of your tapes here, and I'm finding that I'm picking up many things I'd missed, even though I've listened to some of them half a dozen times, and I'm going through them with a notebook now and taking extensive notes on them. So
wonderful.
It's got its advantages right now, though, so in some review.
That's wonderful. By the way, I'm filing suit against the IRS. In fact, 2 different lawsuits. They are blatantly flouting the law. I sent in Freedom of Information requests asking for specific information and documents, and they refused to disclose those information and documents, and so I filed appeals. And when I file the appeals, they have X number of days to answer, and they must either say that these documents and this information and this stuff does not exist, or they must furnish it according to the law. They did not even answer my appeals and will not even answer to this day. So I'm bringing suit against the Internal Revenue Service and those 2 incidents. And I understand that they are bringing a criminal investigation against me for the years that I have not filed and paid. And on October the 3rd, some people around the country have been subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury in Phoenix to testify about money that they have paid me over those years. And so it looks like they're getting a little bit, how do you say it, antsy. And there's going to be one hell of a court battle because we're going to fight them right to the wall. Got Larry Beecraft on my team and several other just tremendous legal minds and researchers, and we're going to take them to the carpet and use their own law, and we're going to pin them to the wall.
Well, I've met Larry and have visited with Larry in the past, and you got a good one.
Yeah.
Got a good one.
Well, he's not the only one. I'm not going to tell you who all's on my team, but we've got a team that's going to just literally rip them to shreds.
Well, I wish you all the luck in it, Bill. I see the opposition mounting as time goes on here, and it's becoming apparent that they're having to make their moves now out of even desperation in some situations.
Well, they are desperate. You see, if the year 2000 ticks over and nothing has happened and there's no new world order, that's all over for them.
Yeah.
And all these silly idiots running around preparing the way for the false Christ that's not coming are going to be standing there with egg on their face. And it's not going to be the end of the world. And it's not the last days. And all of this other stuff is a bunch of baloney in there. And if they can't pull this off, then, you know, nobody will believe their bullshit from that point on.
Well, Bill, good luck. I hope to talk to you again in the near future then.
Thank you.
So, really enjoy your program, too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
520-333-4578. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Bill. It's Jim, Prescott, Arizona.
Hi, Jim.
We have a republic, correct?
Well, we're supposed to have a republic. It's not a republic today. I mean, but that's what we're supposed to have. The Constitution guarantees us a Republican form of government. But this is not a Republican form of government today.
I noticed when they started out...
It's not even a constitutional government today.
I noticed when they started out that living Constitution, the narrator said a democratic form of government.
Yes, that's what he said, all right.
And I believe when you take the when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's to the Republic.
That's correct.
How did it get switched around? When was that made?
Well, they've been switching it around for years. In fact, they even talked about a democratic Republican form of government when our forefathers were founding this country. It is, in a manner of speaking, partly the way it was designed to be in the beginning, not the way it is today. But in the beginning, it was partly democratic and partly not democratic. And that is what you call a republic. The people elect by popular vote the members of the House, and the states appointed the members of the Senate. The president and vice president were not elected by the people, but by an electoral college. So you had a sort of democracy, and then the rest was not. And then so they counterbalanced each other. Our founding fathers were brilliant men. And so they made sure that everything was counterbalanced, that nothing could get out of whack as long as people stuck to the law and to the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. And we got away from that. Way away from it. We're almost finished, to tell you the truth.
We have Bill Clinton and Dole running for president, and if somebody brought lawsuits against them, if they failed to keep their oath of office or they were involved in treason, they wouldn't be eligible for a president.
Well, you're assuming that they would be convicted.
Yes.
Just bringing charges is not guilt.
Well, I realize that. But it would be nice if somebody brought the charges before they were back in office again or elected to office, instead of letting them get in there. Like Clinton should have been...
Yeah, why don't you file a class action suit?
Yes. Clinton should have been run over the coals before he got in there as president. That's hindsight, I guess. But I'm going to get out of here and let another caller in.
Okay.
Bye.
See how quickly he hung up when I suggested that he do what he was suggesting that somebody else do? Isn't that amazing? What are you all waiting for? Are you all waiting for me to do it for you? I mean, I've had my butt sticking out over the edge of the cliff for long enough, don't you think? I mean, I've been out here leading the charge and hoorah, putting myself and my whole family in danger. Now they're coming after me, and I'm going to have to fight them tooth and nail. And I know many of you who have professed to be loyal Americans are just wilting in their wake. I know many of you, they've come to your door and asked for you to furnish checks, stubs, or records of money that you paid to me or to Harvest or whoever you purchased your books and tapes from, and you just meekly turned them right over without asking for warrants or authority or jurisdiction or anything else. It's amazing. And then you call up and suggest that I do something else for you. You do it! You do it! Good evening. You're on the air.
Well?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jackie.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm fine, dear. I have a suggestion for your listeners who would like to get that rebroadcasting equipment and they don't feel that they can afford it. Why not get friends to go in? I mean, if 5 people went in together, you're looking at maybe $100 apiece. If 10 people went in, there's $50 apiece.
Yeah, that's right. We've suggested that before, that people get together in their area, people who listen to the Hour of the Time, or people who get together and want to broadcast the network in their area. That's an excellent suggestion, and it'll work, too. It takes the burden off of one person and spreads it around over several people. And then you have a whole crew that can take turns running the station.
And not only that, but you have a whole crew who can get out and leaflet in the radius where they're broadcasting and let people know where they are on the dial.
That's correct.
That's what we intend to do once we get set up here. I was talking to Sunny in Florida, and she has a group of people that she's going to be talking to see if they can do that. And Bill, I mentioned to you off air this past weekend, there's I don't know if you've seen them on internet, some reports going around, and none of this is confirmed. There are a lot of questions being asked and a lot of guessing going on, but they're talking about the possibility or the concern that shortwave is going to wind up being so overregulated that it won't even be able to be used.
Well, that might be correct, and they've been trying to do that for many years, and that's one reason that we want to build this low-power FM network across the country. We can literally take the airwaves back.
And that's what I was thinking as I've been reading these messages, that maybe what happened and the decision you made to get off shortwave, maybe you had a little help there from a friend in making that decision, and maybe this is coming at exactly the right time. I've got one short message here I'd like to share, if it's okay with you.
Sure, but first I'd like to say, in response to what you just said, that God has always been my guide, and nothing has ever happened that hasn't been for some purpose in my life.
Right, and you can sometimes, even though we don't see it when it's happening, we can look back and see it, can't we?
Oh yes.
As a matter of fact, in my own personal case, when I heard George Bush talking about the New World Order, that was my hit in the head. And that, I knew for a long time that, there were terrible things going on in our country, but I was one of those people that said, oh, well, what can I do? I'm only one person. And so for about 15 years, I was a walking complaint. And when I heard George Bush do that, I said, oh, my God, they've come so far that they're actually saying it out loud now. And the thought went through my mind that if every person in America was like me, we were going to lose our country. And I literally just, one day walking through my kitchen, said a prayer and said, Father, please, if there's anything I can do, and I don't care what it is, please see to it that I do it. And if I'm not listening, then shove me or push me or pull me. What I wound up doing, Bill, was campaigning for both rights. And I thought it was so right, see?
Well, don't feel bad. I started off supporting him wholeheartedly and was probably responsible for bringing a lot of people into his camp in my ignorance and stupidity.
Yes, well, but see, excuse me, for me, I can see that how gently he leads us to where maybe we're supposed to be, and maybe we're still not sure where we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at each place in time, because I was in that campaign for 9 months, and during that time I met people like D.V. Kidd, wonderful people all over the country, and that's where we got the idea to start the networking.
Uh-huh.
But when I pulled out of his campaign, when I was real clear there was something real wrong there, I was very discontented, and I thought, how could I have done so wrong? Because I asked, and I felt so right about it. Well, now I see that if I hadn't spent that 9 months where I was, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So I've learned to have a lot of faith even when things don't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. So anyway, this report that I wanted to read to you so that your listeners could hear this, the possibility. And as I said, I haven't confirmed any of this. There's a lot of questions and answers going on. It says here the report did say that FCC would use a charge of, quote, violation of charter rules, citing that shortwave is to be used only for offshore broadcasting. Someone needs to find out any contacts, or maybe we should ask those space aliens. Somebody answered, if you're talking about the FCC, quote, for outside the U.S. only provision, the New World Order crowd has been pushing that for a couple of years now. If you listen to Radio for Peace International, the United Nations radio station in Costa Rica, they've been calling for shutting down the right-wing extremist militia station based on this provision for quite some time. If the report you heard was about this FCC provision, then I believe that after the election, our puppet dictator will pull out all the stops. One of them for sure will be to use this bogus rule to stop shortwave. So it's something for everybody to think about and to do everything you can to get together what it takes to get this rebroadcasting system going. And Bill, I want to thank you for what you're doing, because you really did take a big, maybe it didn't feel like it to you, but it was a huge step for you to go off shortwave and in a sense almost start over again. And I have a feeling that we're going to look back on this and say, thank God that you did this. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you. And I have a feeling that you're right. No, I didn't think it was a great big step. And don't ask me why, because a lot of people think that it was, just like you do. But I saw it as a new beginning and a chance to really make a grassroots effort of the people work. It doesn't take an awful lot to do this. And everybody is disgusted with the establishment media and the communist news networks and the lies that they tell every day. And this is a method that we can reach the American people with the truth. And I think that it'll work.
And, you know, some of the broadcasting stations out there today that are on shortwave, it just seems that more and more that some of the people who are taking the slots are questionable. I've been real concerned about it. What I see is a lot of disinformation coming off, and I'm not saying this is true in every case, but a lot of disinformation coming out of some of the shortwave broadcasts. And I hope that somehow with what you're doing, that you will keep a handle on it, that not to allow that to happen on this network.
Oh, no, it's not going to happen on this network. We'll give anybody a chance if they want to have a chance, but the minute that they start passing out rumors and you know, just the crap stuff, you know, we'll just yank them right off the air.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to getting started. I'll get off the air so somebody else can call in.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. I'm looking forward to hearing you on this network. I really am.
Thanks.
You know, I learn an awful lot from other people like you.
Oh, yeah?
And many, oh, yes. Yes, I don't know everything. I've never claimed to know everything. And I'm constantly learning. I've always got my nose in a book. I just don't stop. And you know something? It's just incredible. You think that you would reach a state where you would feel comfortable with the body of knowledge that you have. And what really happens is you find that the more you learn, the more you discover, the more you need to learn. And
the more we learn, the more we realize how little we know.
That's right. And I've reached the point where I don't believe we live long enough to learn what we really need to learn.
Oh, that's frustrating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But it's such a great, fun quest to be involved in.
Sometimes.
Pardon?
It's exciting sometimes, and sometimes to me it's very frustrating, and it seems very overwhelming.
Well, in the beginning it was that way for me, and I've sort of adapted to what it takes to keep going. I'm just totally amazed all the time at the new things that I learn and uncover, and the wealth, the treasure that lies in books that nobody has ever opened. It's just boggles my mind.
Well, I'm amazed at what you know, too. We were listening to you last night with that judges thing. Reading. Oh, I said, Chuck, how does he learn all of this stuff? How does he know so much about everything? It amazes me. And I know that I for myself in these past 5 years, I feel like I have a computer in my head instead of a mind. But I know there's so much I have yet to learn. But I'm not going to hog the phone. So I'm going to say goodnight and let somebody else call in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Bill. Good night.
Good night. 520-333-4578 is the number. See how it is, folks. When you get warmed up, the phone just never stops ringing. But to get you to start calling is just like pulling teeth out of a chicken's mouth. Good evening. You're on the air.
Ni hao, Bill.
Ni hao to you, too. Ni hao ma.
Yeah. Hi, this is Richard calling from California. I just wanted to say that this is the first time I've been able to hear you since you left shortwave. I finally got my dish set up in the backyard.
Wonderful.
Nobody on the Internet's been helpful in terms of where's Bill Cooper, what frequency is he on, which satellite, what time, et cetera, et cetera. But I had some old tapes and started listening to those out of desperation and finally found...
Well, we are on the Internet. We're on Real Audio on the Internet.
Oh, great.
On the KDNO website. And
KDNO.
Yeah, I wish somebody would call in and give the address for that website. So if you have a computer and Internet access, you can listen the hour at a time on the Internet.
Right, yeah, okay, great. So I can just find that on Alta Vista. So what are your hours now that you're on?
Well, we start at 7 Pacific, 8 Mountain, 9 Central, and 10 Eastern, and we go for 2 hours.
Okay, I thought I'd remember that you were going to be up for 2 hours now that you're on satellite only. Now, you're not on anything other than satellite and then the web, right? Is that right?
Oh, no, that's wrong. We're on about 600 low-power FM stations all across this country.
Excuse me.
And I'm getting letters, more and more letters every day from low-power FM broadcasters who tell me they're carrying this broadcast and that they want to carry the network.
How about Silicon Valley? Are you on any stations out in Silicon Valley?
I don't know. The best thing to do is when we're broadcasting, get your FM radio and just go through the bands.
Then through the dial.
And go through the dial, and if you hear my voice or, listen on satellite, if you hear the same things on satellite on FM, then you got it. Somebody called me the other day and said that they heard me on shortwave.
Yes, well, that was my next question. I was wondering if you were on shortwave anywhere.
No, I'm not. But apparently somebody is sporadically or every night broadcasting this show on some shortwave station somewhere because people are telling me they're hearing it on shortwave.
Great. Hey, I did want to bring up one of my favorite topics, and it's something that I haven't heard you speak about recently because I haven't heard you since early September, I guess late August. But I've been noticing lately, been hearing a lot of stuff in the dominant media about the denial that friendly fire brought down TWA 800. And I was just curious what you had to add to that.
I don't believe it was friendly fire.
I know you've talked about it possibly being a submarine or balloon.
I do not believe there was any kind of an accidental missile firing. I believe it was an intentional shoot down with a missile from submarine, yeah.
Right.
There are just too many witnesses who saw that missile go up and hit that plane, and there are 2 people who photographed that missile.
That was the next question. I'd heard of the existence of a photograph.
Not just one photograph, several photographs. One woman was taking pictures on the beach, and then there was a man at some restaurant or something. He was taking pictures, and they both got this missile in flight. It's a SAM missile, same kind of missile that was used to shoot down our aircraft in Vietnam. Yeah. Those are only made by the Soviets. But that doesn't mean it was the Soviets or the Russians who shot that plane down.
Right.
But it was shot down with a missile. There is no doubt about it. Anybody who says otherwise is a barefaced, bald liar. And that's all there is to it.
I tend to agree with you on that. It's interesting that what they're saying is that there was no way it was friendly fire. They're not saying it wasn't a missile. I think that's very interesting.
Well, that's very smart of them not to say that it wasn't a missile because it was a missile.
Yeah, right. That's absolutely right. Well, thank you much, and I'll hang up as well and allow somebody else to get on.
Great.
Good talking to you again, Bill.
Thank you for calling.
Bye.
520-333-4578. Yeah, folks, TWA Flight 800 was shot down with a missile. There are at least 100 witnesses to the missile coming up from the water and hitting the airplane. There are 2 different people who took photographs, and I have seen the photographs, and they've been shown on television. There is no doubt about it that plane was shot down by a missile. Good evening. You're on the air.
I pass to you after the show a name of a low-power broadcaster manufacturer I found to be of good quality?
I would prefer that you send it to me in writing. And I'll tell you why I do this, folks. I have a nasty habit, and this is one of my biggest failings, and I've never been able to do anything about it. I jot things down on a little piece of paper, and 5 minutes later I can't find the piece of paper, or I look at it and I don't remember what it's all about because I didn't write all the necessary information. So if you send me it in writing, it will be noticed and studied and filed and won't get lost.
Okay, I'll do that. And I had one quick question. Had you looked into LaRouche's campaign?
Yeah, LaRouche is an old-time communist.
That's what I figured. I was reading through some of his materials, and he claims that he has changed, but when you read his stuff, it looks like very socialist in nature.
He is. It is, and he is.
Okay.
And leopards don't change their spots. So
right.
This guy's been a communist all his life.
Right. Apparently FDR is a big hero to him. When I heard that, I knew
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill.
You're welcome.
Right, bye.
And, folks, if you're a LaRouche supporter, don't call me and start raving and ranting like you do sometimes. I don't want to hear it, and I don't care. I've studied all his material. I've listened to his speeches. I've read his books. I will tell you one thing. The Executive Intelligence Review is a wonderful research organization, and some of their material that comes out of there is just top-notch. But they always put this little LaRouche agenda on the end of it, and if you can get through that, you're all right. But as far as LaRouche goes, I've researched the man. I've researched what he's proposing and all of this other kind of. LaRouche is a communist, and I will not support him, nor will I lie about what he is. So if you want to support him, that's fine. You have a right to do that. When somebody asks me, I'm going to tell the truth. Good evening. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey, this is Charles in Georgia.
Hi, Charles in Georgia. I should say, hey, Charles.
Hey, you remember me. What I was calling about before I forget, if you change satellite positions, how can we find you?
Oh, I'll let you know. I will not just be here one night and on another satellite the next.
Well, you scared me a little earlier when you said you were on SpaceNet 2, Channel 7, Audio 7.5.
No, that was a rerun of the very first broadcast of the Hour of the Time on May 4th, 1992.
That's what I get for tuning in late.
That's what you get for tuning in late.
Speaking of disinformation, you should have heard Rush Limbaugh today.
Oh, what is he up to now?
Well, he's trying to discount the missile theory.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What you mean? He's calling all those over 100? Actually, let me tell you. I try to be very conservative so that nobody can throw figures back in my face. There have been different quotes as to how many witnesses there are, and I have heard as high as 300. We know that there is at least 160, 170 witnesses. I say 100 just to be safe, and it's absolutely safe. And 2 photographs taken by 2 different people of the same missile that all these other people saw go up and hit that airplane. Now, how is Rush Limbaugh sitting there on his pompous ass calling all of these people liars?
He claims to have received 1,000 letters about the missile.
1,000 letters?
Yep, 1,000 people have sent him letters saying it was a missile.
Yeah.
And he just laughs at them with no evidence.
Well, what do you expect from a guy that's sitting on half his brain?
Well, that's great.
More and more people are catching on to Rush every day. Have you noticed a lot of Rush rooms are closed?
Well, he really made me mad when he came out with something called a kook test. And
well, we did an article on that in Veritas. He doesn't pass his own kook test.
Is that right?
Yeah, we did a long article showing how Rush is a kook according to his own test. In fact, Dr. Cuddy did that article, and he's just a fantastic writer and researcher.
Well, I wouldn't listen to him, but I'm in my car, and
oh, don't feel bad. When I travel, I always listen to Rush. He's very entertaining. He makes me laugh. He's funny. if you don't take him seriously, it's fun to listen to him, and he tells everybody that he's an entertainer and that you shouldn't take him serious, and he's only doing it for the ratings and the money, and nobody seems to listen to that.
Well,
so he's been honest about it.
Do you think he knows what's going on, or is he just a buffoon?
I think it's sort of half and half. I think he half knows what's going on, but doesn't want to hurt his pocketbook by talking about it because he knows he won't be on the air 3 minutes if he does. I think he sold his soul for money. That's what I think.
Well, I appreciate your show, and I'll let somebody else get on the line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Yeah, he talked about one time how he really got into this conspiracy stuff, as he calls it. It's really not a conspiracy, and anybody that wants to do the research will find out the truth. Rush, when I was traveling, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I was traveling. Annie and I were listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, and he was talking about how he was on the radio in Sacramento, California, and that people were sending him all this documentation. He started doing research and found out that all of this stuff was true, and he started talking about it on the radio, and he said, my ratings took a nosedive, and my career was in danger, and he says, I got out of that right away. He says, there's no audience in conspiracy radio, and I'm here for the entertainment, and I want to make the money, and I want the ratings, and I'm an entertainer, and that's what this is all about, and I don't want to hear any of that conspiracy stuff. I heard him say it, folks, with his own mouth. So, Rush is he's telling it up front. He's not trying to fool anybody. So if you take him seriously, that's your own fault. 520-333-4578. And we've still got about, 14 minutes to go in this hour, the end of the second hour of the 2 hours of the time. 520-333-4578 is the number. Good evening. You're on the air.
Well, howdy, Bill.
Hello.
Little item for you. As you know, I have satellite since I'm listening to you, and also subscribe to the West Coast television service, that 24 or whatever it is. Anyhow, KPIX, Dave McElhatton, a couple of weeks ago, mentioned that they had the sister station in New York had some highly credible person who claimed that the missile was launched from a submarine and went completely through the aircraft and did not explode, went up to some high altitude and fell into the ocean.
That could be.
That's what Dave McElhatton announced, but I'd never heard it again.
It's a possibility.
So that's mainstream media, but they never repeated it.
Yeah, we do know it was a missile. We do know it was launched from a submarine. We do not know who the submarine belonged to. We do know that C-130 and that Black Hawk helicopter were out there looking for that submarine, and it was not a routine scheduled exercise. It was a SOSUS alert, and that's what we know.
One thing you could speculate that it was probably radar guided since it dead centered the aircraft.
Well, yes, I would tend to make that assumption.
Okay.
Thank you for calling. Anything else? Nope, he's gone. 520-333-4578. I had not heard that before. If anybody out there got a recording of that broadcast, I would appreciate getting a copy. By the way, if you ever want to send anything to us, folks, the address is Harvest, Harvest, P.O. Box 1970. That's P.O. Box 1970, Eager, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona 85925. That's Harvest, P.O. Box 1970, Eager, Arizona 85925. Good evening. You're on the air. Hello, Shirley.
Yeah, I knew Jackie. I met her when we was campaigning for...
Shirley, wait a minute. I need you to do something.
What?
I need you to turn down your radio or your satellite.
I'm sorry.
Whatever it is you're listening to.
Oh.
The feedback is echoing through my brain, and I'm going to just melt in a second.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, it sounds much better now.
I've been sitting here on the phone, trying to get through to you.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to know about your new book. We haven't got our Veritas yet,
Well, Veritas hasn't come out yet.
Oh, okay.
We lost our staff. and I'm struggling to learn the PageMaker program. And when it does come out, it's probably not going to be the number of pages that it has been until I learn how to do this.
Sure.
I'm struggling just to get an issue out,
Okay, But I wondered about your new book,
Oklahoma City Day One?
Yeah.
It is through the printing process, and it's been bound, and it should have been loaded on a truck and should be on the way to us right now. How many days it's going to take to get here, I don't know. When it gets here, we'll bring Michelle from Oklahoma to sign all the books that she needs to sign along with me. And the ones that don't need to be signed, we'll start shipping them as soon as we get them.
Yeah. Well, I want one of them. I got your other book,
Well, if you want one, if you just want a paper trade, send $35. If you want one of the hardbound collector's editions, that's first edition hardbound, signed and numbered and limited to 500 copies, that's $65 postpaid.
Yeah.
So take your pick and send us the money, and we'll get it off to you. Make sure it's a money order.
I want to tell you, I really appreciate what you and Jackie's doing. Jackie was here in Springfield. I met her when we was campaigning for Bo Grice. We found out,
Yeah.
the hard way.
Well, me too. I found out the hard way.
But,
But if we hadn't have found out the hard way, we would never have known.
No, hey, that's the truth. It woke my eyes up, and my husband's too.
Yeah.
And we're working here in Illinois trying to do things, but you can't get people to wake up. They don't want to wake up, I don't think.
There'll come a day when they'll be forced to. And
but we got to do our thing, I mean, we can't. We try to wake them up. They make fun of us,
Well, don't, so what?
Yeah, that's what we said. So what,
Yeah.
I mean, we woke up, and I will say that Bo Grice woke us up, and when we did what we did, I have never campaigned before in my life. And I did it for that man, and then come find out he's a liar. Kept saying he's going on TV. He lied to us so many times that it wasn't funny.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's been doing that from the beginning. And people are just now beginning to understand.
Yeah. So
it was a great shock to all those Christians who followed him all those years to hear him talk about his son's past life regression and his belief in reincarnation and all of this other.
No, we went and talked to his his vice president or whatever, something about some kind of an animal, I don't know. And we couldn't, that Manasseh.
Oh, he was teaching British Israelism, huh? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to think of that guy's name. His vice president or something. And something about an animal. And me and my husband, we didn't understand what the heck that was all about.
Huh. Well, without hearing it, I can't comment on it.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Ephraim and Manasseh, but you weren't.
But I didn't know. We didn't understand it, as some kind of animal, and they were going to do something, and so we came to our senses, and thank God for it. And listen to you, we tape you every night. We got us a satellite dish, and my husband's thinking about going, and broadcasting.
Good, wonderful.
But we haven't got into it yet, but I'd say this winter, he'll get right into it,
Good. Need as many people as we can get, all over the country.
Yeah. And, but we thank you, Mr. Hoover, for doing everything you're doing.
Well.
You're interesting, like tonight. That was very interesting.
Well, good.
Very interesting.
Good. That was our very first broadcast over 4 years ago.
We've been taping you for a long time,
And
listen to you all the time.
Wonderful. Let me get somebody else in here.
Beg your pardon?
I said let's get somebody else.
And I thank you, Mr. Cooper, for what you're doing.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling. 520-333-4578. Well, somebody else who was in there helping the warrior monk. Were you listening the other night about the Templars talking about the warrior monks? How many times have you heard Grites refer to himself as a warrior monk? What do you think he's talking about, folks? Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Bill. It's Monty from Vermont.
Hi, Monty. How are you?
Pretty good. There's an interesting little bit about the missile theory.
No, it's not a theory. It's a fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as you noticed from some of the maps that we saw,
you got that many witnesses and photographs. It's not a theory. It's a fact.
Yep. That and coinciding with the flight maps pretty much lines it all up in one big neat package.
Yep.
What I called to ask you about was you used to carry the number 10 cans of garden seeds. Are those still available through you?
I think they are, but let me check and I'll make an announcement on the radio.
Okay.
Because I hate to say they are and you send in some money and then find out that they're not. So I'll call Jim tomorrow and find out.
Okay. That's all I had to ask.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome. 520-333-4578. We've got time for maybe one more call, maybe two, and then we'll hang it up and go to bed for one more night. 520-333-4578 is the number. While I'm waiting for that call, I'll figure out what in the world am I going to play for some lead-out music tonight. Maybe I'll do that one. Let me see here. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, Bill, it's Dan from Texas.
Hi, Dan.
I hadn't heard anything about the deal with the president, or hadn't heard you say anybody here today. He's going to sign the bill, which is going to give, I think it's close to 2 million acres in southern Utah on that, or Red Rocks area, I believe they called it, and turn it into some kind of a national monument.
I haven't been keeping up on that. I don't really recall anything about it.
It was on CBS News with Dan Rather, and they had Robert Redford on there again.
Oh, Robert Redford. That's a wonderful reason to give away land, because Robert Redford endorses it.
Yeah, supposedly he'd been fighting this for 10 years or something of that, but I just thought it was interesting. It's a whole huge sort of kidney-shaped area they showed on the map in South.
He was fighting against it?
Well, no, Redford had been fighting, against public exploitation, as he called it. I guess evidently there's one of the largest coal reserves in the country or in the world underneath it, and supposedly this is protected from being developed. Another Redford had been fighting for something like 10 years, to get this thing turned into a monument or something to stop this development.
National park or something like that?
They're calling it a national monument. I know they had Orrin Hatch on there saying something about, well, this should go to some kind of a thing for the people to vote on it and all that, but evidently Clinton's signing it under some rule, or Congress has no say in it or anything else.
Well, Clinton has no say. This is ridiculous. This belongs to the state of Utah. How can Clinton give away the land that belongs to the people of Utah?
Well, that's the question, but, it's, like I say, Hatch was acting like he couldn't and being a Republican and everything.
Oh, Hatch is a two-faced boob. Hatch is one of those guys that was trying to bring about the conference of the states and destroy the Constitution. So he talks out one side of his mouth while he's handing little paper bags, out behind his back.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. But I guess he hasn't physically signed it yet, but he's supposedly going to. He said he's going to. And it's just a huge amount of land. Like I say, it looks like it takes up all the central part and almost halfway up, across the bottom.
Well, you talk about corruption. Yeah. I'm telling you, in a state where everybody claims to be so namby-pamby religious, there is more corruption, suicides, and bullshit going on in the state of Utah than just about any state in the Union outside of New York.
Yeah, I know it. So I just wanted to mention that. I caught it on the news. I hadn't heard too much about it myself either. It kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you.
Nice.
And folks, good night. And God bless each and every single. The voice of freedom. You have been listening to the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network. Please be advised, ladies and gentlemen, that the following broadcast is not a part of the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network, is not endorsed or supported by the Hour of the Time, the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network, or William Cooper.